everybody? Welcome in. I am so excited. This excellent graphic teams has put some together. I got an awesome new promo code. I got this show just all lit up. Import Nonsense is doing big things. I get to hang today with one of the best contributors for Import Nonsense, Mason Cameron. Hey, Mason, let them know what you do.
What's up, Jason? How did you get all this stuff? I need some cool, I had to, you know how much I had to beg to get a new graphic for one of the shows? I guess this is the real show, so it makes sense. But I'm Mason, at PFF_Mace on Twitter. You can catch me over at Important Nonsense. You can also catch me right here on our YouTube. We do a bunch of shows. I run the betting team over there. So if you ever are a little bit of a degenerate, you like throwing some money around, come talk to me. I love to make money, and we love to do it. You can also check us out in the Discord, link right there. And that's where we talk about a lot of our betting stuff. And I'm just excited to be here, Jason. It's always you on my shows, and now it's flipped. The script is flipped. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man. And this is one of the most important weeks. A lot of big injuries happened again. It's just one of the things. And if you've been watching the show, you probably already had a lot of players that we're going to suggest. But we're going to start off like we always do with quarterbacks. It's a pretty, ugly. It's nobody pretty that you want to pick up this week. I'm personally going to stay with my boy, Jared Goff. I know he really hurt me last week. The matchup was great, but it's just brutal. He's currently the 11th best quarterback in fantasy football. I know it's blowing my mind. Granted, they still have a team to play tonight, but I doubt either Cooper Rush or Daniel Jones is going to jump him in the list. I'm just saying. So they get the Seahawks.
I'd be shocked.
Yeah,
I'd be absolutely shocked if that were to happen. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense because, we were talking about it on our show when I was actually fading the Lions last week. And jokes on me, they came out and they played pretty well on the road. But they're a significantly better team at home. So it's better to get in on that now because they're going to be at home and you're going to get a nice cushion there because they're comfortable there. They play well in their house, and the Lions are back, baby. The Lions are back.
They look pretty good. I'm excited. I mean, that defense is looking good. The offense has a lot of great pieces, and we're going to continue to kind of talk about that through the show because there's some other stuff kind of going on that you have to keep an eye on. Outside of that, I guess I'm going to go with the guy who I have on my team. I love him. He came back this week against the Chiefs, and Matt Ryan, 17.7% rostered on ESPN. Week 1 versus Houston, not a great game, 15.28 fantasy points. Really blew it last week 2 against Jacksonville, 1.8 fantasy points. But then against the Chiefs, again, 15.28. It's like the guy knows what he's doing. So great offense, a lot of great weapons. I think the down week was really just the fact that he didn't have Michael Pittman or Alec Pierce, right?
Right. Yeah, they had so many injuries, and the injuries have just been crazy and throwing everything out of whack so far. So it's going to be interesting to see how some of these teams shake out when they are fully healthy, because the Colts are one that you go back and look at their record and it doesn't make any damn sense. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do moving forward if they're healthy, because Michael Pittman is a weapon, and I need him to do good. All the Pittman fantasy managers out there are right there with me. It was tough to not have him in week 2. That's all I'll say.
But he came back and did pretty good this week. I mean, Alec Pierce did take some serious targets away. I was excited for him. That was one of my picks in the offseason, I guess. But outside of that, if you're looking for somebody who's very widely available for quarterback, you're in a 2-quarterback league, Jacoby Brissett this week, 1.5% rostered, gets the Falcons. Week 1 versus Carolina, 10.8 fantasy points. Week 2 versus Jet, 15.46 fantasy points. And then this past week, 17.9 versus the Steelers. I mean, that's a pretty good defense. Is there anything? Do you have another quarterback or anybody you want to kind of talk about, or are you okay with those picks?
I think you hit them good. And actually, I like the Jacoby Brissett one, because that's actually something that V has actually been highlighting, that they've played well up to this point, and he's actually going to highlight them as a team to maybe target this week. So be on the lookout. We have a piece actually coming out, opening line values. It comes out tomorrow, so you can get an early jump on the books and get in before the lines move and get crazy when the public starts throwing their money in, and you'll already be in there with all the sharps. So check that out, and that's going to be one we highlight. But I liked all your picks, Jason. I completely agree.
Yeah. So if you're in a stream quarterback like me, that's kind of the route to go. Now we're getting to running backs because there are a couple injuries that have me a little worried. And had you watched our first show, week 2, I brought up these players because they are constantly getting snaps. They're involved in the offense. And if the guy in front of them went down, they were great values. So we'll start off with the one who had a massive week this past week, Khalil Herbert, 25.2% rostered in ESPN. And you saw this week, massive week, 30.9 fantasy points. Dude put it up 150 yards. It's just massive. Like, he went insane. So, granted, it was the Texans. This week, though, they get the Giants. So, if Montgomery's out, I think he's a pretty good option.
Yeah, I agree. And if you're in my fantasy leagues, you can't get him on the waiver wire because I drafted him, baby. Let's go. It's Herbert season. And you know what? You would have already probably drafted him too if you listened to this show, because Jason and the guys have definitely talked about this for a long time, that without Montgomery potentially in the lineup at points, Herbert is slated for big days. And we saw it. We saw it this last week. The sky is the limit. He's an immense talent. I'd love to see what he does when he gets a hold of the backfield, for a whole season, and it's his backfield.
Well, I think that's going to happen next season, don't you? I mean,
I agree.
Montgomery's contract's coming up this year. I think he's going to be somebody you definitely look at. I mean, if you're looking at that same point, I'd rather go to the guy next on my list, and that's going to be Jamal Williams, the dude who gets all the valuable touches for the Lions. Like, he's gotten, with Swift having that injury last week, you saw what he can do with just a massive day. 24.7 fantasy points. And this week he gets the Seahawks, who really just love to give it up to the running back. So 44.3% rostered on ESPN. But again, that's too available. If Swift is out, you have to have this guy. He could even just be a flex for you, because guess what? Bye weeks are coming. They're coming for quick. You might as well start him getting now. Come on now.
Well, and he shouldn't be available in that many leagues. He shouldn't, because it's also, the fact is that they have a really good offensive line. And so they're adamant about getting both backs work sometimes too. It just depends on how the health is going of Swift. And as Steve says, looks like Swift is out for the next 2 games now too.
Big news.
This is big news. This is a guy you have to prioritize on the waiver wire this week, in my opinion. And I think, Jason, you're spot on with that, because like we said, this Lions team is solid. They're back. You should go get their players, because they're not toxic anymore.
Hey, Mike, I knew it was going to happen. I was just about to bring up this point, but Craig Reynolds is another sneaky guy, because I do think that this is going to still be a committee, and they like him. The other name to kind of know is Justin Jackson. He's an old Chargers running back. He was signed to the team. It's one of those things that you have to keep an eye on. It's Reynolds does know the system for sure, but it's one of those things you definitely have to keep an eye on. And at the same point, 7th best running back in fantasy right now, Jamal Williams.
He did that last season at the beginning of the season too, when Swift was battered, and
the same thing that's happening.
It's like, what do you know? He's actually a really good running back. Who would have thought?
The other guy is somebody I also. Hey, we will get to that. M. Gonzalez, that's for sure. But yeah, he's on my list. We'll touch on it because it's definitely something important. But outside of that, I also have the guy I talked about last week, Jerick McKinnon, still out snapping CEH. CEH just continues to get the correct work. He's getting all just lucky, in my opinion. And if you're really looking for a stash right now, in 36.8% rostered currently, Brian Robinson. He is likely to come back in the next, I think it's in 2 weeks, is his official good to go. I would expect to start seeing him limited in practice this week for sure. But what do you think, Mason? You got anybody else I totally just whiffed on? Or
no, I'm right there with you. Actually, I highlighted a CEH under this past week, and it obviously hit spectacularly. And it's just because that backfield, they're completely comfortable doing the committee thing. But when I think there's a pretty clear discrepancy in some talent. I personally don't think that CH has the talent. I fade him at every chance I get. And if books continue to put his numbers high, I will continue to fade him and make money off of it. So I love the logic there, and I'm right there with you.
All right. So we'll leave that alone. I would have said Madison, but again, it's one of those things. If you had Cook, you probably already had Madison. And even then, Cook is likely to play. He's dealt with his injury forever, not something that you're really too worried about, and I'm expecting him to play this week. But we'll move into wide receivers, and like Gonzalez said here, Dobbs, Romeo Dobbs, 16.1% roster currently. He had a nice week 1, but there's no Allen Lazard. Then you come back week 2 with Watson. The split went down. He lost a lot of targets, went 2 for 3 for 27 yards. That made me nervous. I thought Watson was going to play this week. He didn't. And the second I saw that he wasn't playing, you put him in your lineup. Because guess what happens? Versus the Bucs, 8 for 8, 73 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, him and Watson are the two that are going to be battling in Green Bay for those targets, while Lazard is a clear focal point. Yeah, again, my issue more about Pirine and Superman, Chris Evans, or not Superman, Captain America, Chris Evans. Only way I can remember names. I don't know what else to tell you, man. But is the other backup there, and I think they'd end up splitting it. Pirine saw a lot of the work last week because, like we said, Mixon did go out, but at the end of the game, he came in for the kneel down. So, and like Steve said, it looks like he's going to play. I'm not willing to touch that. Now, if you want to get ahead of it, the other wide receiver I'm looking at, Sterling Shepard. I know it's an ugly name, 28.8% rostered. It's one of my favorite pickups, and PPR for sure. Dude is just a beast. He continues to see all the targets. It's Daniel Jones' favorite target for sure, and it's just incredible. Week 1, just coming back from injury, 2 for 4, 71 yards. He got you 9.1 fantasy points, and then he didn't. He got a touchdown too. So we're already at 15.1. What is going on here? Week 2, team high, saw 10 targets, caught 6, 34 yards. Okay. So 9.4 fantasy points. Why is this guy still available? He's going to be a consistent person to have on your bench. Might as well just roster him now, because if somebody does get hurt, say, I don't know, one of your starters, I'm trying to think, Evans goes out, he is stupid and decides to hit somebody again. That's how it works. I mean, you have to have these players available. But what do you think, Mason? You're just laughing at me over there.
Mike Evans, I just love a good Mike Evans jab whenever you can. I'm petty personally. I'm a hater by practice and trade. I work really hard at it. So to see restaurants in New Orleans put up Mike Evans posters, aren't this is a Mike Evans free establishment. I just love that. And I think you also got to have those backup plans. So I'm right there with you. I co-sign it. And, just like our guy M. Gonzalez said over here, I am actually big on the Dobbs shares here too, because when I see them play, and I just use prerequisite knowledge of how I've seen Aaron Rodgers operate over the years, there is a specific way that he acts with people he likes, and you can tell he's getting that way with Dobbs. I don't know that it's the same way with Watkins, because when he hit him with that real deep ball in week 1 and it went right through his hands, and he did that, quintessential grabs his head before the ball even hits the ground type thing, you just saw Rodgers look over at the sideline like, I told you this wasn't the guy. And so I think that he has that, that notion in his head that that's not going to be the guy, but he likes this other guy that they took late, big body receiver, has good moves. I think that you're going to get a lot of value out of that moving forward for sure.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping that's the case, but like I said, I'm just so nervous about Christian Watson being something that is just one of the annoying pegs that bother you every week. Oh, baby, the guy I decided to tell everybody to play and pick up in week 2 that really didn't end up burning you last week, but then came back this week and just absolutely scorched earth against my Chargers. Yeah, that happened. So, yeah, I like Zay Jones. He's not on my list because I've already mentioned him once. I'm actually going to go back to the Lions offense here and go with Josh Reynolds. because he's so widely available. 0.3%. I mean, that's all his roster shape percentage. He's in ESPN. Week 1 for 3, 28 yards, 3.8 points. Not great. Week 2 versus Commanders, 12.8 fantasy points because he went 3 for 3, 38 yards and a touchdown. They have him there for a reason. This is the whole reason I was nervous about going for Amon-Ra St. Brown, is because they had Reynolds come in and he had a lot of success before Amon-Ra really got shown in the spotlight, because Reynolds got hurt, Hawkins got hurt, Swift got hurt. He got the spotlight at that point. And then this past week, 6 of 10, 96 yards, 15.6 fantasy points. I mean, he's an awesome player, widely available.
I see. This is the only one where
you don't love it, I know.
I don't love it because I'm definitely big. I think that when you look at how well St. Brown has played, it's
he's a beast.
So hard to really be like to bank on somebody else to take some of that workload. But I mean, I guess if you're looking at, like Steve said, if you're kind of like between Zay Jones, that is a really good point. And you said he's rostered in 0.3% of leagues. You can get this guy off of the street for peanuts. Like you don't
have to even. I mean, while everybody else are getting these big names because they see them pop up and have a big week, like Dobbs is going to be a very popular pickup this week.
Yeah.
Greg Dortch, who should have already been on your roster because we talked about him, but the other person on that same note though is Rondale Moore. He should be back this week or next. Somebody else to kind of stash and have on your bench. I mean, these are kind of the moves you need to start looking at and get ahead of everybody else so you don't have to go and blow a lot of fab. While everybody else is spending 20, 30% of their fab on Romeo Dobbs, you can go in for $1 and grab Josh Reynolds and be like, well, who knows? If it's a good matchup, he's going to get me a touchdown or he's going to go for 96 yards. Like that is a player he is. But we'll leave that alone. We'll move into tight end because, everybody hates this position. I might as well just get it over quick.
Abolish the tight end. Go get your Abolish the Tight End t-shirt over at shop.importantnonsense.com. Use promo code NERD.
Oh, baby, Mason doing it for me, doing all the heavy lifting over here.
Go get your Abolish the Tight End t-shirt. You'll love it.
So if you agree with him, here's a hey, we talked about it on Thursday while it was happening. David Njoku, I know, 9th best tight end in fantasy right now. Not great, but hey, this past week really just catapulted into the top. 9 for 89 and a touchdown. Woo!
That just shows you how terrible the position is. That just shows you how absolute garbage the position as a whole is.
But that's the second wide receiver right now. He's the one who's seen the second most targets on the team.
That's true.
It's Cooper and him. You might as well go with it. Like, that's what you're looking for in tight end, is somebody who's going to get those targets. So, again, we brought it up. Tyler Conklin still available. You should have him. He is the Jets tight end. It's ugly, I know. Trust me. Dude is continuing to find the end zone, though. And if he hasn't, he still is putting up double-digit fantasy points. Like, it's bananas. He's actually the 3rd best tight end in fantasy right now, behind Kelsey and Andrews. Do you like that one? It makes you sick, doesn't it? Because it's a Jets tight end.
As a man who has multiple shares of Darren Waller, I am sick. I'm sick.
Well, it's going to make you even more sick is the guy who's very widely available. Everybody's probably going to be looking at him. Jelani Woods, 0.2% rostered. Guess what? He has more touchdowns this year than Kyle Pitts in his entire season and 2-game history. In one game, he got 2 touchdowns. He went 2 for 3, 13 yards, and 2 TDs. I'm just saying, dude has more touchdowns than Kyle Pitts. So, granted, not something you really want. It's more of a widely available. You want to take a shot of that garbage heap of tight end there at the bottom. I mean, that's a good offense, and they're going to have to throw this week. So,
and you, I mean, you bring up a good point about philosophy in tight end in general. Is that like it is kind of touchdown dependent, but when you look at these teams and how they play, you can put these teams into boxes on how they're going to use their tight end near the goal line, who they're going to target, who they like to use. And so you can kind of find some hidden value in these guys, a little bit lower, especially because just like we said, the whole position's kind of a crapshoot. Besides the top couple of guys, as Steve always likes to say, put a name in a hat and draw it out and start them at tight end. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. And if you're doing that, this is a great opportunity to do it, because the fact that he saw the targets and Mo Alley Cox didn't and he caught him. Like, one of those snags was a really amazing snag. So
it was a nice catch.
Woods has this good skill, but all 3 of his targets were 5 yards. Yeah. Doesn't matter. If you're already looking at the bottom of the barrel, grab him. Correct. That's the more frustrating part. But guess what? I told you guys to play pitch this week. It paid off for you. He came back, nice bounce back game. What you need to be focusing on with Kyle Pitts is if they are able to take away that center of the field, he's going to have issues. It's going to go to London. They aren't going to force it to Kyle Pitts. And the coaching staff literally came out and told you that this week. So got to keep that in mind when you're looking at who they're playing against and the defenses, which, we need to talk about now. If I asked you who the 3rd best defense right now in fantasy is, do you have any idea who that'd be?
No, not even close.
What if I told you it's the Eagles?
I mean, okay. I mean, they've been good, I guess. Top, yeah, okay. I mean, that's not like outrageous.
Well, week 1, 5 points versus Detroit Lions. Lions are looking real, okay?
Yeah.
Week 2 versus the Vikings, 13 fantasy points.
Right.
Week 3 versus the Commanders, 17 fantasy points. Do you know who they have this week? The Jaguars. They're going up against Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. So this is going to be an interesting test, but I really like it for them. If they're playing this well, they have great cornerbacks. It's going to be a tough matchup because Kirk is just playing out of his mind. I love Christian Kirk. He's playing amazing, but still 37.2% rostered, and they're playing like this. They are the 3rd best defense in fantasy right now.
You know, the fact that they're at home, I'm going to co-sign it. I wouldn't usually, because exactly what Steve is saying right now. Because you know what? Our guy over on the betting team, Ben Hunt, has made me a Jags believer. I tell you. Go follow him on Twitter if you haven't. His name is @Ben the word, had the word, Ben the word. Yes, that's how he explains it. Go check him out. He is a great follow. He's a great handicapper, and he has been riding this Jags team all the way, and he's been right at every turn. I think this Jags offense looks good. I mean, their defense is still pretty trash, but they were able to hold the Colts to 0. So
without Michael Pittman.
Without Michael Pittman. Pierce. Sure, they didn't have anybody. It was definitely like the Colts JV team. But I mean, if you think about it, the Jags are kind of a JV defense anyway. So like,
I'll give you that one.
But I'm not totally away from it. I think that this Jags team is back, and I wouldn't necessarily pick on them, but the Eagles have been red hot. So I see what you're saying.
All right. The other defense.
It's true, Steve. It's true. I can't get him to shut up about it either. It's every day with the kid. He's always in my DMs telling me about his Jags futures. And I have the Jags futures too, because I saw him I thought he was going to make a bunch of money. So we're all here.
Well, I mean, it's my Christian Kirk take. That's just sometimes how it works. You have to run with it because it's what they're putting together over there on the offensive side of the ball is scary. Yeah. I mean, they got Kirk as a big receiver. He's doing great. They have both Robinson and Etienne going in a rhythm. Like that's going to be hard to stop. And if they actually, I mean, they have a bunch of random pieces outside of that, but if they get another decent wide receiver, that team's going to be scary. So, and then they can start focusing on defense and might actually win a couple things. I don't know, but we'll focus it back. I'm going to bring it back around. We need to get back on the horse here. And speaking of horses, Denver Broncos, 28.5% rostered, 4th best defense. Currently still, it's ugly. That's how bad it is. They are currently the 4th best defense in fantasy. Week 1 versus Seattle, 7 points. Week 2 versus Houston, 8 points. This past week against the 49ers, 17 points. They're causing turnovers, getting sacks. I mean, that's kind of what you're looking for in defense. And it's ugly. It's really ugly out there when you're looking at defense. It's part of the reason I don't like talking about it, but I'm throwing some names out.
Full disclosure to everybody watching, I'm a Denver native, so this hits close to home. But don't do that. Don't do that at all. Don't do
11
that
points.
to yourself.
11
Don't
points.
do that to yourself. But who have they played? Like, I mean, gosh, that game last night was just honestly one of the worst things I've ever watched in my 28 years of being a Broncos fan. I couldn't watch another second of it. I get it that, like, hey, they played decently well. They've always played well at home. Their defense should be good. It's been good in the past. But who have they played?
Well,
Who have they?
Okay. Who did they play this week? The Raiders. Are you scared of the Raiders?
I mean, no, not necessarily, but like on paper, you should be. Like,
correct. On paper, you
more
should
than
be.
the Texans. Like, I don't know. I just you put it perfectly though. Like, defense is a absolute ghost town anyway. You're pretty much dart throwing a lot, and you could get a lot worse group than the Broncos. But you know, man, the track record against underwhelming opponents scares me absolutely to death. And not even just from a fantasy standpoint. This is me literally venting my fears as a fan, everybody. So I hate betting the division on matchups too. It makes so much sense, right? Because
for it
they
to be a
hate each
shootout,
other, and it makes no sense. And then they score 70 points.
And I completely could see that, but I could also see it being under 20. Like, it is. I doubt it's going to be the 30-27. It's more likely either going to be over 35 or under 20. Like, that's your range of events that's going to happen. And it's ugly, man. I can't. Ugh. So
I mean, good Lord, if Hackett's still calling the plays, I don't think they're putting up 40 anywhere. So
yeah,
I mean,
what are they doing, man? I don't know what to tell you. That like you said, on paper, the offense, what is going on?
Jason, I'm beside myself. I have no earthly idea what's going on. They hired somebody to do game day operations stuff. Like, I'll tell you what, Nathaniel Hackett, I have 22 years of Madden experience. I'll come in game day coach the hell out of that. I'll probably be cheaper than the guy you hired too. I promise. It's not that hard. Like, use your timeouts. I'm sorry, guys. I'll stop. I'm having
or use all the weapons you have at your disposal. Like, I get Sutton's a really great player, but Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, your running backs. I mean, use them all at once. I don't care at this point. You have to get that offense moving somehow. Do something. I mean, a jet sweep through the backfield. I don't care. You have to get something moving.
Let's just say this. So I had to watch their defense last night / this morning for our friends over at Pro Football Focus. And to tell you how many times I watched them run a spacing concept into a cover 2 multiple times when they've been running cover 2 all night. Like, I can't. There's something wrong over there. I don't know what to tell you. I don't see it getting much better. I mean, hopefully it does, because the talent on paper is great, but man, it's the sum of your parts type thing. So
yeah, but their parts should be really good. There's a great meme where it says, "Let Russ cook," and then the picture of Russ cooking is a hot dog and cheese. Hey, that's what I had for lunch. What are you talking about? I feel personally insulted here.
No, Jason, finish that sentence. It
says,
in
a bowl of cereal.
Okay,
that makes more. I'm like, hot dog and cheese. That sounds delicious. What's the issue here?
I'm now picturing Russ. Now I'm picturing Russ cooking the NyQuil chicken at the stove.
Not gonna happen. I'm not for it whatsoever. But hey, thanks everybody for coming in and watching this show. Mason, thank you so much for hopping on, being a great co-host with me, dropping some knowledge, making sure I don't look completely stupid. If you haven't already, make sure to check out all the articles on importantnonsense.com. If you want some sweet merch, like, I don't know, the Trust the Process shirt, have to do it. Shop.importantnonsense.com. Promo code NERD, NERD, like this guy. Outside of that, I mean, there's some really great shows that we do. Thursday, we have an awesome one before and during halftime that give you some really great options for, I don't know, betting. I feel like Mason might know a thing or two about that. So, and our betting team is legit, you guys. If you don't already have it, make sure you're on the Patreon. They drop some serious bombs and win you some serious money. That will pay for itself. You're going to walk away money in hand. So you might as well do it. That's what I don't understand. But again, thank you so much, Mason. Have anything you want to promote, my friend?
No, I mean, you did it so well, Jason. You call me anytime. I'm going off 2 hours of sleep right now. I'm a little slap happy, but I'm loving it. And I'll come back anytime to your show, my man. You said it perfectly. Check us out. Everything over on the Discord, Shop Out Important Nonsense, the betting team, the website, all the stuff. We have it, keep it locked here at our YouTube, at our Twitch, at our Facebook, and you can see all the great shows. We have a show nearly every damn day, so there's always something going on. Check it out. You're going to love it.
Yep. But again, just want to thank you all for watching this. Hopefully we're helping you out. Have any questions, hit me up on Fantasy Life app or Discord. I am clearly available. The whole point is to help you guys. So again, thank you so much. And always remember, oh gosh, left press microwave. Don't remember that. Do not remember that. Gonzalez coming in with a hot take. Too bad it's not hot enough because microwaves either go too hot or too cold.
So, all right, I'm done. End the show, Jason. That's it. It's a wrap.
Remember with that to keep up the nonsense.